And as always, start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Audience. Committee reports. Let's start with you.
Okay, I actually have a few things. The musical is You're in Town this year, which is a funny name, but it's a good show. And we have auditions.
Thanks for the qualifier.
Oh, yeah. You're in Town.
You're in Town.
Yeah. Our auditions for that were this week. And then we also had the first New England Math League contest, which had 189 students participate, which is an SHS record for participation. And then fall sports are coming to an end, so there's a lot of people moving on to CCCs. So girls field hockey won 3-2 against Conard, so they're going to CCCs. Volleyball won against Newington in their tournament last night. They won 3 games against Newington, so they get to move on to quarterfinals for CCCs. And then girls soccer is playing East Catholic right now in Berlin for the CCC championship game. So a lot of the fall sports are entering CCCs. So if you're interested in fall sports, go to the games. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Josh.
So update from Communication Committee. We met on the 24th, so have some notes from that. So focus of the meeting with David and Neil was on looking into website enhancements, partially from the feedback received from the board last year. And the timing aligns with the MassCom Messenger contract that we have. That's up on the 30th of June next year. So looking for a cleaner, more modern look and feel to the website, easier way to find things, search functionality, things like that. So David's discussing potential partners. He's got a meeting with a vendor tomorrow. It's a widely used vendor in the educational website space, and they also have a mass communication tool as well as the website support. So potential opportunity there to replace 2 vendors with 1. And for budget considerations, hopeful that doing so will help with the budget as we need to do a new contract with somebody anyways. So as it moves forward, focus on some key areas will be the graphic design, systems capability, infrastructure, and user experience. And it'll be important that we have the proper support in place to support that technology development as we go forward. So our next meeting is the 9th of January. We'll get an update from David on how that's going, as well as talk about the communicator, which will have additions going out in February and June. And we'll also talk about where we're at with the vision of the graduate videos and if there's anything coming for budget season communications at that time. So that's where we stand with the communication committee.
Thanks, Josh. Jess.
Nothing from my committee. Just wanted to say that Henry James did their fall fest on Friday.
Yep.
And it was great. So many kids attended it, and they all had fun. So thank you guys for doing that.
Yeah, just a few things. We had council meeting last week, and Matt, you probably heard the same thing from Dr. Florio and all the superintendents. But the big news this year for the legislature, of course, the legislative issues is the Magna funding and SPED. And with all this federal uncertainty happening due to the shutdown, we're day 28 right now, in inaction at the federal level and the state level. No one is coming to save us, so we really are going to be in a bind come next year. On the CAPE front, there's a lot of great webinars that are happening at the moment, and we're kind of gearing up now for January. Connecticut school climate and understanding the 2025 changes to the state education funding. So if anyone is interested, they're only about 45 minutes. You can just get on and log on and hear them. We also have the federal policy hour, and some of these are very interesting also. You can get on those also with NSBA. Navigating the federal voucher program, implications for public ed and school board advocacy. It's not so pertinent to us here in Connecticut, but it's good to know what is happening in other parts of the country, and if it ever comes down the line. The other one is about powering school boards, transforming student futures. Again, with the precursor to what's going to happen in DC in January and also Connecticut. And then just the action alert from the NSBA federal policy. The short summary of what's been happening now with the shutdown. Of course, you all know about it. You've been reading and hearing about it. But in the nutshell, obviously the staffing, the employees are either furloughed or laid off for good. Civil rights, funding, Title I and IDEA, duration impact, program funding, school meals, EPA funded grants, Head Start programs are disrupted, K-12 funding and advanced funds are scheduled for release. But those are basically the big ticket items that are happening while we are in this shutdown and what have you. So, and I don't know if any of you saw, but Patrice McCarthy from CABE, Executive Director of CABE, published in the Hartford Current today a very good op-ed opinion about election 2025. Vote for your Board of Education like your kids are on the ballot. It was very good. I think every Board of Education member and everyone that is voting in the state of Connecticut should read about this. And it's pertinent for many towns that are having some very aggressive fights and issues and things. Fortunately, we aren't having it here in Simsbury, but it's really important to know that this is where we stand, and we stand together as 1,400 school board members in the state of Connecticut united for the same thing. So that was in the Current today, so if you get a chance, read it. It'll make you feel good. It'll make you proud that you're one of the 1,400 board members, and we represent the school children, not only of our district, but of the state and the country.
That's great, thank you. We definitely do something. So, Jen?
I have two things. One is, I thought our audience might know, or want to know, in case your child is looking, I think the PSAT scores are out already from when they took them on that day.
Yeah, I was waiting to get confirmation, but I think you might be right.
The
At least my child has it, so they are
Yeah.
out. Yes, so check that. And then the other thing I wanted to say was thank you to the PTOs again for the cultural enrichment, because they had that last week, I think, and it was well received and a great experience for them all. That was it.
I got nothing, thank you. Next Tuesday, November 4th, we will have a full day professional development, so the focus of the morning will be around advancing curricular plans and curriculum development, K-12. That's very exciting, and then in the afternoon, there will be time for teachers to work on their individual growth plans. So we're also excited about that. We're also partnering with Cigna, and they will be offering some different wellness sessions for teachers during their lunchtime, and just a great day ahead.
It's election day, so that's another thing we should mention, that the day off of school because of election day, something everyone should know.
In Brian Watson's absence, I'll give an update on personnel and negotiations, which we learned this morning that the teachers have successfully ratified the tentative agreement. They held a vote over the last couple of days, and their ratification got over that hurdle. So 2 weeks from tonight, we'll present the major outcomes of the negotiation, and it'll be up to the board to vote, and then we'll have a full agreement.
Take for now.
Just one update on solar at Latimer and the high school. Looking to put out an RFP next week for another PPA agreement similar to what we do at the skating rink in town to put solar on the roof in those buildings.
Nothing, I was just gonna mention the election, as Sarah said, encourage everybody to get out and vote.
Two quick things. On an annual basis, as the board knows, Sue and I go out to each of the schools and conduct what we call a listening tour. So we pick a kind of different segment of the staff population each year. We've done leadership teams, we've done special education. This year we thought it would be cool to pick like year 1 to 3 in your experience at Simsbury. And it's like yielded a really interesting group of like some veteran teachers that are new to Simsbury, teachers new to career in Simsbury, and the input and the dialogue that we've had has been really rich and very helpful. It's an exercise I know that people really value. We've done 4 of the schools, we've got a few more to go. And it's part of the info I'll share with you at the end of the year, kind of my evaluation, some of the themes and important things that our teachers are having us think about them. It's been really positive. Also had our first Jen's usually there with me in these meetings, but had something today. PTO group, we had a nice turnout, and kind of just had like coffee and conversation and talked about some things that are going on in the district, things that are on their mind, and again, like getting your boots close to the ground and getting some real good input and feedback from our stakeholders. So that's all I had.
Thank you.
Yep.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the October 14th minutes.
So moved.
So is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Yep, personnel.
Yeah, just one item tonight. This is one of the notifications of your intent to retire 3 years from now. So a special education teacher at Henry James, Tracy McConnell, has put in for 3 years from now, this in the fall, for her retirement, currently 24 years in Simsbury. I first met Tracy when she was at Canton High. I did my administrative internship there, and then like a year later she followed me to Simsbury and has been at Henry James. Teaches a lot of times some of our most impacted special education teachers, just a really gifted teacher, and we get her for 3 more years.
Question, I'm just looking at the date, October 19, 2028, what's the significance of the fall?
So teachers' retirement formulas are based on your age and level of service, so that might be a significant birthday for Ms. McConnell.
Okay. It says it all.
I thought you were going there.
Diplomatic.
2 minutes there.
Answered my question.
Anything else for Neil? Great.
Need a motion.
Oh, we do need a motion?
Oh, is that not a motion?
Oh, we don't want it. Jen?
Move that the Board of Education accept the notice of intent to retire of Tracy McConnell effective October 19th, 2028.
Second.
Great, any discussion? Great, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and appreciate your mind. Hey, James.
Yeah, so we're excited to have the Henry James leadership team here tonight to present their annual report to us, and we also have a special staff guest. And as it's been a little, we're starting a tradition, I guess. We talked about a staff member last year in recognition. We wanted to do that again this year, so I'll turn it to Scott.
Yes. So excited to start tonight's report to recognize a staff member. Last year we recognized Brian Foreman, and it was just a really cool thing, a cool way to start our report in a really human way. So tonight we wanted to recognize Laurel. Really embodies everything that is great about Henry James. She is a practicing artist. She shares her craft with her students. So it's really what a benefit that they have to be able to have a real-time artist as a teacher. There's no way she would have allowed me to have like a slide about her up here. What she gave me was a slide of some students, and this is just last year. Like, so if you think of the work that she inspires in her kids, and this is year over year over year. First place piece poster contest, a gold key winner for Scholastic Art Awards, a silver key winner. And if you've seen like the flyers for the Chet Dream Big contest that gives like a college scholarship, Ella Wallenberg was a winner. And this is all because, and this is just a small sampling, all because of the coaching that Laurel gives her students and the inspiration that she gives them as well. So that's with the students. With the staff, she's also on my leadership team. She runs point for all of our essential arts teachers. So anytime there's like some things that we're doing whole school, she's able to coordinate that with all of the related arts teachers. So she's on my leadership team for that. And then district-wide, she has a lot of contributions too. Do you want to say a couple things?
Sure, a huge part of what she does. She's been a master mentor and truly a master in our teen program, which is the program for teachers who are just starting in the profession. And there are very specific modules that they participate in. We collaborate with a retired world language teacher, Jan Sands, to help us run that. But Laurel has been a master mentor of numerous new cohorts of brand new teachers into the profession. And I believe that there is direct correlation between what she does with them and their staying power and our retention of really incredible talent. So she makes it safe to ask questions and to not know, and she partners with teachers, and she's just incredible and extremely humble.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll stop there.
Yeah, so we're just so lucky to have you at Henry James, you know, whether you're a student or one of your colleagues or your principal, we appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
You know, 31 years I've been teaching here and really love
No.
it. Like honestly, 31 this year. Isn't that crazy? Time flies. But it was like one of the places I really that's where I wanted to work. And because everybody's like, oh, the art department there's amazing. And absolutely they were. That's where I learned everything, right? From my Paul Kolakowski and Cindy Rem and Cindy Parsons and, you know, all the ones that came before. And then of course just all of you folks have been, the Board of Ed has been amazing. So it's just a place that I've absolutely loved working and love having other people love working. You know what I mean? It's great to bring new teachers in and get them excited about what they do. And then, you know, the students, like, this is not me, this is them. This is, they're the talent. They are the ones that are just amazing and come to the art room all the time. Of course, any study hall, come down and see me. Absolutely. It's just, I love when they get excited and are so happy about what they're doing and just thrilled that they can create something they didn't think they could create. So to bring that out in the students is just amazing. So thank you. Sorry, now I'm completely embarrassed and completely my face is red.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Skedaddle. Thank you so much.
Let's do one week going out to the.
You can't leave yet though.
I'll be here for a little while.
That theme of support from our mentor teachers, from our new staff has been very evident in things that they value. You say, wow, you really have this one right with people that are willing to work with us in schools. So it's a great program under Jan's leadership.
I did forget to mention, like, probably she's touched so many of the artwork that's just around in this room, right? Anyone
Oh, yeah,
who's in
and our
high
kids
school
do.
there? Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so
Right.
great way to kick off our annual report. Want to start, I chose this picture on purpose. I don't know if you ever like move into a new house and you have like that creaky stair or the mailbox that doesn't shut right, and then like years later it gets fixed and it's like life changing. I came back from vacation with the flagpole painted. It was so exciting. I parked next to that thing for 7 years, and to just see it nice, not rusty or anything, was wonderful. So,
Where are we going with this?
Kyle Loveland, that's Kyle Loveland.
shout out to Kyle Loveland, former student of mine.
I had to ask him why we were talking about the flagpole. I was like, I didn't even notice.
But very exciting. So we just want to start with some of our highlights. I know we have a full agenda tonight, so I'll go a little quickly through some of this. But some of the highlights from last year included our Study Skills Committee. You're going to hear more from Jacqueline about that in the future, but something we're extremely proud of, and you have an exhibit in your folder as well. There's been so much in the news about cell phone policy and stuff like that. You know, we took that on maybe like 2 or 3 months prior to it becoming a major thing, and it has really made a difference in Henry James. You'll see in our climate survey data, we'll talk more about the cell phone policy, but really we're proud of the work we've done on that, and that we didn't need to have anything fancy or anything. We just asked students to put their phones in their lockers, held firm to making sure they're in there, and it's just worked. So sometimes simple is best with some of these things. We had the first time we've ever had parent-teacher conferences at Henry James last year, so we're very proud of that. We're making some tweaks to it, but that'll be coming again this year. Extracurricular life, our goal is to every student try something after school. We share that with them at the start of the year. Last year we had 78%, so we still have a ways to go, but we're excited about that. Parent education series, Jacqueline really has spearheaded that with our PTC and getting local practitioners in to speak with parents. They've been very well attended. We've had the highest ever PJ Day. I'll explain why in a little bit. But we raised a tremendous amount of money for CCMC last year. Our musical continues to be really strong. You heard about the Fall Festival. They get just as excited about the Spring Festival coming up, and obviously Neon Night's one of the biggest deals. But we've also grown our Culture Night, which is really exciting. We have, I think, over 50 families come with food and performances and stuff like that. It's excellent. I already talked about the art awards that we've gotten, but we've also had state titles in robotics and math counts as well. And then we started a new summer reading program called Book Breaks. Remember, we did the one school, one book thing in the past year, where we listened to students and they said, we didn't love being maybe pigeonholed into one book that we might not like. So we found a new program that offers us so many authors to have virtual visits for, and students have a little more choice in it. But at the same time, they are having a common experience because it's a list of books. It's not just read anything. So that's just a quick summary of the highlights from last year. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about probably what's the most important thing we did this year, regardless of data that you'll see that we're really proud of, is we had to walk through two really difficult time periods last year in Henry James. We lost a student and we lost a beloved teacher as well. And sometimes that can destroy a school year and really bring a school to its knees. But I think we did the exact opposite. We took both of these events and used it to bring our community together. And we had this response where we did an amazing Lego project. Jacqueline really spearheaded that with Abby. I don't know if you want to say a couple things about that.
I mean, just in knowing that this would be coming, her passing, we did a lot of work just to prepare for it. We met with professionals at CCMC about how do you go through a death of a student with a whole school, and they coached us through how we could do it. And so we had whole plans where we trained the teachers, we had read alouds, we created a memory box where every kid in the school wrote a note to the family, and then one of the things that we did later in the year, because we didn't want it to be kind of just happen at her passing, we wanted to keep her memory going, was Legos were one of her favorite things, and Lego generously donated, I can't even tell you. I mean, it was this like Suburban, like a car your size. I saw coming in, filled to the brim with Legos of every color, size, shape. And our student council went and sorted them. And I'll give a shout out to my brother who does some Lego planning. We created an activity surrounding peace. It was joy, strength, and love, which were kind of big things that Abby represented. And the kids had to plan a Lego build that represented Abby or something that she loved or something about that idea if they didn't know her well, and write about it. And we had, we spent the 2 days when we returned from Christmas break doing that. You can see a picture of kids on the floor building Legos, and it was a way to kind of embrace her and embrace their grief in talking about it. And we still have some display because we didn't have the heart to break them down. And it was just an amazing experience to do that with all of the students. And they want to keep that going kind of in her memory, but maybe change the theme each year and do that. So that was really great.
Yeah. And to just put a cap on it, a few students also did some fundraising on their own and really donated to Abby's foundation. And we received an award from the Connecticut Association of Schools for citizenship with that as well. So it's just a hallmark of how strong our community is, and wanted to make sure I mentioned that. All right, so I didn't have a good transition from that to data. But that's what a big part of this report's about. So I want to go through our state testing data, and then obviously we can take questions on where we are with that. But we'll start with English. Our English Smarter Balance results came in at a school at 75% of students meeting or above. That is a 2% increase from last year's scores for the school. And then if we took a look at grade 7, they came in at 78.5%. That's a 2.2% increase from 6th grade, which you very rarely see any of our, like if you look in historical data, increases from 6th grade to 7th grade. Or if you look at comparison towns, say they have a 6-8 school, 5th grade to 6th grade. That transition year usually sees a little bit of a bump in there. So that's a celebration. We haven't seen that happen since before COVID, where you saw an increase in anything from 6th to 7th grade. So that's a celebration. In the Derg B comparisons, I put these in this year just, I think, to talk about a little bit because it's something we look at. For those that are listening, Derg B is like a group of towns that have similar economic, educational profiles. And so that's where you say to yourself, well, what does 78.5% mean? Right, and so we look at some comparisons there. So this year for 7th grade, we were 3rd in the Derg B. That's a +6 change from last year's 7th graders when you talk about the ranking, and we're within 1% of the top score. So the rankings, I haven't included them in the past because sometimes you could celebrate and it's a decent score, or you could be really upset and it's still a decent score in the ratings, depending on like the spread of the scores amongst the towns. Sometimes the spread of the scores amongst the towns are so small that it's margin of error territory when you talk about statistics. So I'll come back to that as we look at their comparisons from test to test. But we're happy with that, obviously. The grade 8 cohort was at 72.4. That's a 1.9% decline from 7th grade. Derby comparisons 14th, which is a -1 from last year's 8th grade. However, they're within 2.8% of top 5. And I would say, like, when I look at Derby comparisons, I think we should be somewhere in the neighborhood of the top 5. And when I say neighborhood, that means a few percent away from top 5. So every percent's about 6 students. So I think that's a good framework to think about where you are there. So this group's within 2.8% of the top 5. So, within striking distance of them. That means the scores for grade 8 and ELA are fairly well clustered. When we look at the reflection of what we did with ELA, we did pilot IXL for students to set individualized goals. We focused on specific ELA standards to make sure we were monitoring how students were achieving those. We collaborated with world language and social studies on literacy skills, and then the book breaks kept the summer reading alive. Moving on to science. In science, we were at 73.1% students at or above goal, and that's a pretty strong continued performance. It is a 1.7 decrease from last year, and I would say we're going to get to math in a minute, but I think with this cohort, that kind of tracks with the math performance of this cohort. Notable, though, is when we look back when these kids took the science test. They took this science test back in 2022 as 5th graders. So when we look at the Derby comparisons, this year we were 10th, which is a -6 change from last year's 8th graders. However, it's 3% within the top 5. And when you look back in 2022, these same group of students were 13th, and they were 12% away from the top 5. So they've definitely seen some significant growth from 5th grade to 8th grade in their performance when you benchmark it to the relative Derbys. How do we get there? We really focus on the NGSS style lessons, which is more about those phenomenon and how we have students explore. It's not just vocabulary science, how we maybe have learned in a lot of memorization. They're really being taught to think critically and respond to these. We are continuing to work on curriculum development in science to align lessons with their unit of studies. And then we do have an in-house practice test we do in 7th grade to see how they're doing, get them some familiarity with the test, and have the 8th grade teachers take that data to prepare students for 8th grade. All right, math. So in math, we've done a lot. So at last year, if you remember, we presented an improvement plan. We had some data that we weren't terribly pleased with. And so we're happy that I think we're going in the right direction here. So this year we have 66% of our students at goal or above in math. That's a 6% increase overall for the entire school. In grade 7, our students, 72.4% of them met goal. That's the strongest performance 7th grade's ever had in Henry James since the Smarter Balance has been given. It is a 5.4% decline from 6th grade, but that when you look back, that's in line with the declines that you see HGMS, Derby averages, that sort of thing. In a Derby comparison, we're 9th. That's a +7 change from last year, and we're within 1.6% of the top 5. So you could see that, like, for 7th grade, really strongly clustered scores in that area for Derby. In grade 8, we were at 61%. That's a 1% increase from 7th grade. But tucked inside of that, when you dig into the data a little bit more, the students in Math 8. So we have Algebra 1 students, Math 8 students, and Advanced Math students. So the Math 8 students, the percent of students meeting goal increased by 9%, which is a huge improvement over anything we've ever seen with that group of students in taking that course. And I can talk to why we think that is in a little bit. The percent of students in algebra meeting goal actually decreased by 4%, and we can talk why we saw that as well. And then in the Dirk-B comparisons, we were 14th, which is -2 from the 8th grade of the year prior. And this is where I say, when you look at those percents, when does it give you pause in terms of being off that top 5? This particular cohort's 11% off the top 5 in Dirk-B. Last year they were 12% off the top 5. So slight improvement. So, reflection on math. So, the 2024-2025 improvement plan, like I said, I think it has absolutely set us on the right path. We obviously have work to do, but all of our indicators are moving in the right direction. What did we do? We really focused our teaching practices on engagement. That was math in focus. It's vertical team visits. We made visits to the elementary schools to see what were the students engaging in down there, what does the curriculum look like, and how can we make a good transition to 7th grade. And I think that showed up in our 7th grade scores. And then talking about building thinking classrooms, these are instructional strategies that help boost engagement as well. We also engaged in IXL pilot. So this is a new data system and practice platform for students. Teachers engaged in a ton of professional development around this. We had students engage in 30 minutes of practice per week. And then our PLCs focused on really looking at analyzing this data as the year was progressing. We also engaged students in setting their own goals with IXL and ESPA. And then I talked a little bit last year about the testing culture. I don't know if you remember, I said we had this culture where students could just jam out that test in the first day and then sleep in the next day. So we stopped that. And we split the test up into sections for students, so we weren't having them rush. We did have some review sessions after school for math to just kind of do a little bit of teaching into how do you prepare for a big test. And then obviously we tucked in test preparation throughout the year in their math assessments. So that's our math reflection. Plan for continued improvement in math. We really did some reflection on IXL. In terms of monitoring student progress and informing intervention. We adjusted the diagnostic tests that we have them take at the start of the year. We're really using IXL to identify and reteach prerequisite skills for units. We moved from 30 minutes to 2 teacher-assigned skills, which is in line with the research that IXL was telling us. So that's a big adjustment that we've made for students. And then, a question I think you would have, especially if you have an 8th grader going to 9th grade, how can the 9th grade teachers be informed on what lagging skills this particular cohort might have? They can access all of that through IXL as that's going up to the 9th grade as well.
Scott,
Yes.
Can you talk a little more about the moving to 2 teacher-assigned skills per week? What does that mean?
Sure. So last year we had students, we just said log 30 minutes of practice, right? So tonight, let's pretend it was last year, you're a Math 8 student, you go home, you open up IXL, you can pick any skill you want, you just do 30 minutes. So we found some students were doing telling time ones, or 4+3, or the hundredths place.
It was based on their arena.
It was based on their arena, but they could also just pick anything they want. And then even middle school students, being middle school students, could figure out a way to open the test and have it log the time without doing anything. So we moved it to assigned skills. So the teachers actually pick the skill they want the students to work on that's related either to their unit or to something they need to know in order to be successful in their unit. That might take them 30 minutes. It might take them less. I think for a lot of students, we're finding it takes less. For some, we're finding it takes more. And that's where the time comes in and says, we don't really want you taking more time than that. So that's a conversation with student and teacher if they're really getting bogged down.
And they have to reach a certain proficiency to complete that assigned skill. Right. So it's an 80% proficiency. And yeah, so you see it at home, right? So you go up to 80%, but if you along the way, if you get one wrong, it knocks your percentage down, and then you get more targeted questions. So
are those skills assigned individually to the student or class-based?
Most of the time it's class-based because it's based on the unit they're in. When we get into intervention or students we are concerned about, that's when we're creating individualized plans where we find through their diagnostic test that, fractions, we really got to shore up their fractions here, even though that's not a unit for 7th grade, if that makes sense. Yeah, for sure. One of the things we're really focused on this year in the teacher evaluation is engagement in math. And so that's looking at a lot of the different ways in which we are designing our lessons. Again, that's building thinking classrooms, but we also incorporated a student survey. I did include some data initial data in your folders that I can just refer to really quickly right now. It's not done. We've gotten we're conducting this survey between now and November 1st. It's like a blue sheet. It looks like this. But I thought I'd give you a little peek at the initial data. The questions we asked are obviously down the line. If we look at some of the percentages, we didn't include any neutral. You had to pick as a student. You had to either be positive or not positive. And so like the engagement numbers, 87%, 88%, say I am engaged in a typical day in a classroom. And we did define it for them because I think middle schoolers needed that defined for them. So that's good, and that's reflective of I think what we're really trying to do early in the year is get kids active, up, moving around, talking to each other in math class, and not just sitting and doing practice problems. Just some others to highlight. I think the positive relationship with my math teacher. Really excited about those numbers in this early data. To have 90% of the students, over 90% of the students, say they have a positive relationship with their math teacher, and the percent of ones was so small. As well. So I think that's excellent. And then I think if you look at the relative weaker ones, I'm interested in math, I'm comfortable discussing math problems, and it's safe to make a mistake. Those are all things we're really working hard on right now in the math. Like those are teachers' goals about making mistakes and about having dialogue in the math class and like trying to increase that relevance. I'm interested in learning math. Right, like trying to increase that relevance to it. So we're still looking at the data. I look forward to sharing it when we have we're going to do this fall, winter, spring. So maybe in the spring we can share where we are after a year of working toward this stuff. Okay. And teachers have this data. They'll be looking at it. Obviously, they really want to see what their individual classes are like and stuff like that. We've broken it down that way as well. Would it be a decent time to stop and ask about math? I know we had a lot of questions about math last year. Anyone had any math questions?
I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you say there's 414 responses, so is that
We're not done.
is the whole school?
We're whole school's doing it. We're just not done yet. We have a couple more. We have John Perrell, a new math teacher. We said, hold off on that a little bit. Let the kids get to know you before you fill out the survey. So his aren't in yet because we want a little more time for that. That kind of stuff.
You're doing it 3 times, you said?
3 times, yeah. It's short. It only takes the kids 5-10 minutes. They're open-ended, so we're great. If you look at some of their open-endeds at the bottom, I just cut a few, but they were great. They really believed the survey was anonymous because they gave some real true opinions and stuff, and they did put teachers' names in there and stuff like that. So it's good. We got some good feedback from them, and teachers it'll be good for them to see that.
How do the teachers look at so far?
The survey? They have. I don't think we've really dug into the data yet. That's going to be something to look at on the 4th, I believe. That Pat Long has as part of it.
But I'm getting the impression they like the IXL.
Yes.
You're hesitant in your.
I think there's still some growing pains, right? Because they're figuring out how to best use it with kids in a positive way too, and how to best we changed the assessment this year. So what's the most effective tool for us to look at kids' performance? Because it gives you a great, their grade level. And then they also have practice in the arena, what they call the arena, which helps them show their adjustment on that grade level throughout the year. And then there's benchmarks. But I think it's growing pains.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn. And that's where I say the math, if you look at the list of everything we did with math last year, you almost would expect an implementation with all the new thing teachers were doing and the data shows that we still grew, so I'm really happy about that. I planned on this math plan being a 3-4 year thing. Really, this is a lot that we rolled out last year.
In the arena, explain what you mean by that.
So the arena, it identifies skills based on so if a student takes it in 8th grade and they come out with a 7th grade level, it will identify skills that they need to work on. And so every week the math teachers on a block day, the kids spend 10 minutes in the arena, which has targeted skills that they can work on to then monitor their grade level improvement throughout the year. And then they'll have a benchmark assessment in February.
We're doing first week of February.
Which will kind of reevaluate that grade level marker.
So the student can see it, the teacher knows it's where they are in the arena.
Yep.
Yes.
But no one else knows.
No, except for
Anybody wants.
We can.
Yeah. But other kids can't, and they talk about it because
Yeah,
part
they
of
do.
their goal setting is they do goal setting related to IXL and their growth target on SBAC. So they're aware of it. I mean, like my son's in 8th grade and he came home the first day. He's like, "Mom, I got this in ELA and I got this in math." And so even just a year in, the kids are very cognizant of what they're doing.
When do you do those assessments?
We did one in the last week in September.
Last week of September.
And then we're doing one in February, and then you have an option to do a third one in the spring. Last year we didn't do it with everybody because it comes right after SBAC, so it was kind of, we looked at students who maybe we needed to measure their growth a little bit more versus kids who were on target, because it's a lot of testing at the end of the year.
This tool has a ton of potential.
Yeah.
And I think Jacqueline's hesitancy is because we're still trying to figure out, based upon all its potential strengths, what is best for us, what is best to inform what we need for information to make our adjustments on the daily, but also curricularly, or we can run certain standards reports. Which standards aren't kids demonstrating proficiency with yet? What does that mean? Where should that standard fall? So there's just a lot of moving parts where we have access to a lot of information, and we have to make some decisions about what's the information that's going to help us best to teach better and for students to hit higher levels of learning.
And value for kids, right? Like
Yes.
you made the changes.
Right. Yeah.
The 2 targeted skills where it's kind of more open-ended.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
And what it is not is a replacement for expert classroom instruction.
Right.
You know, you have to be very careful when you have a tool this comprehensive that it doesn't take all that over, you know.
And I think it's been a huge positive change from STAR, where STAR was just, 3 separate tests and there's no backup for you to do it, like to give kids practice or to go through all your skills and to look at test questions. And so this is giving us such a huge wealth of information that it can be overwhelming at times for teachers, like Sue said, because there's so much to sift through, but it really has helped us throughout the year to give kids, especially in intervention, more targeted practice too throughout the year.
I think I'm just gonna wait to after what you just said, kind of tee up. One of my questions is, you alluded to this earlier about just the transition. I know always these guys I know kind of obsessed with transitions from grade levels. And so in 8th grade, it's had some challenges with the new system and everything. So now they're freshmen, right?
Yep.
How do you convey that? Just can you speak to that? Like, how do you convey that?
Sure.
To
So we have math vertical teams. So our department supervisor is talking to the high school department supervisor. The high school does have IXL, so that data is carried forward from 8th grade to the 9th grade teachers. So the 9th graders took a diagnostic test as well. And so there's conversations that obviously happen between the 2 departments. Our algebra curriculum, we've worked on aligning that. I don't know, Sue, you want to talk to that at all? But so we're consistently working on that to make sure that, and this is a special cohort of kids that, like, obviously a lot of kids did great, but there are some that are still continuing to struggle. And so it's important for those teachers to have the data in terms of where they are, right?
That's great. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have the transition to being now freshman in high school, so I'm glad
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
There's a lot, it seems like a lot going on with that cohort specifically.
Yes.
So great to hear.
We went full bore, all kids, both grade levels at the middle school, spattering at the high school last year, and students with IEPs, grades 2 through 12, as the pilot. And then there was some cadence behind what this data was showing, and it's now adopted in both math and ELA in 9th grade, 10th grade, and different 11th grade classes. Along with this, we are doing some extensive professional development. So I partnered with Berlin Public Schools, and we had an IXL expert come out to Berlin High School, and it was just Simsbury in Berlin. They had full day PD that was very specific to questions that we want answered. So it's learning for us too, and it's learning again how to use the data to do better for kids. And so I think there will be at least one more evolution. We're including elementary professionals in the conversation as well to say, is this a shift that we want to go to grades 2 through 12, but more to come, we're not at that point yet.
Has it been brought down to sixth at all, or is it just seventh and up?
If there are students with IEPs, we use it for diagnostic, otherwise middle school up through the high school at this point.
Are you contemplating bringing it to everybody in sixth?
We are 2 through 12.
But prior to getting to the 2 and up, because then you're talking about second graders and the Chromebooks and it's a whole different thing. Is there an in-between step where at least that, because to your point about transitions, the 6th to 7th transition, you would have that data for at least those kids?
We'll be certainly thoughtful. I mean, students are already using iPads for STAR, even in the second grade. So we'll always be thoughtful about that transition. But again, we have to really focus on what is the data that we're looking to garner and for what purpose. So yes, it makes sense. You go 7th, you go 6th, but those are still discussions that we're having. We want to be very thoughtful about that.
Right now, it's still STAR for elementary. And then it'll be interesting, just as a side note here, like, because I feel like STAR results haven't always been, in my limited experience, haven't always been given to parents and families and resulting in that. So if there's a way to expand that and have IXL results given out to families at some point, that I think could be helpful as well. And then my other thing was, for next year, planning ahead, is there any way you could bring historical data, to Jeff's point, but for 6th to 7th on the testing? Like, it would be interesting, like, I know you mentioned it and I believe you, but I would also like to see the data
Sure.
too, if we could, from 6th to 7th and
Yeah.
how that is,
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah, and on that 6 to 7, the 5.5% decline in line with historical. Why is that? I mean, it seems notable, right? So these kids in 6th store here, they come into 7th and they go down.
I think
I'll stop there because then I have a question about 8th.
So when you look at the transition, when you look at that transition, you're going from, number one, you're going from an hour plus hour, I don't know, elementary hour, 20 minutes of math to 42-minute math period with then like a block. So just the amount of time you're spending on math is reduced. I think you also think about just the bandwidth it takes to make a transition. Because you see this similar thing, say in West Hartford, when I was there studying this as well. That drop is 5 to 6 because the middle school starts at 6. So there's some bandwidth that you lose, I believe, and then you're offering so much more at the middle school in terms of what you're doing. You're taking a world language every single day. You have wellness every single day, and so you're doing more than a lot of math, English, and such. You know what I'm saying? So there's more subjects that the kids are responsible for. So it's not as siloed in terms of what they're working on. I believe, and I'm going from an educational rationale rather than that. But you see this phenomenon across our Derby schools as well.
there's also the social emotional aspect and the developmental aspect of moving from elementary to middle school, and just the changes in friendship, their body, their brain, everything, which has a huge priorities. I mean, I was in my middle school head, I'm like, how many times have we said 6, 7? But you know, like that's where their head is at a lot of the time, and their focus isn't the same because they're very concerned about their social status and their, you know, just their development socially and emotionally. So that also plays into changes in data over the years.
Makes sense, but I guess what I would say, right, I do have math concerns in the middle school, I've said that. The ELA went up 2.5% from 6 to 7, and the science went up 5% from 5 to 7. So, I mean, those same things apply.
Oh yeah,
So,
for sure.
That's that. Like the data's, and that's why I think having more data, what Jen asked for is, I would love to see 6 through 10. Because we say it's the same students, right? If they're here and there's dip, then they come back up by 10th, what's happening? So that transition's happening, but it's not impacting them in ELA or science. And then when it comes to the 8th grade algebra kids, that concerned because something worked with Math 8 that didn't work with algebra, right? They went opposite directions. And that to me speaks maybe to is there a difference there, right? Because algebra should be the kids who are higher than Math 8.
Correct.
So should be grasping these things, and whatever we're doing to improve the environment, they should get an accelerant, if you will. And it went the other way. So I would be curious on your thoughts there. I'll pause there for that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously we spent quite a bit of time looking into that. I think part of it is that Algebra 1 curriculum it's a rigorous curriculum. They're studying algebra. And I think what we found is what some students in that cohort needed was more brush up on the stuff you're not teaching in that class. So, for example, you might not be doing very much with shapes and some geometric concepts and stuff like that, but that's on the ESPA. And they covered it in Math 8, but they didn't review it in algebra because you figure those kids they're going to be fine. And so that's something where we're looking back now at the algebra IXL data to see like what skills are some of these kids missing. And I think we were so hyper focused on those kids that were right around goal in that Math 8 that we were putting all of our arrows toward that, or all of our energy toward that. And weren't necessarily looking at what skills might these algebra kids be missing, because as you said, like we would expect them to make goal, right? And so it's going back and tucking in some more experience with some of those standards that they just need extra practice with.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
there's
yeah.
almost,
Yeah.
in my opinion, having seen it, there's almost like maybe the expectation is too high for the algebra kids to everything we were just saying, the transition, all of this stuff, right? They're coming in algebra in 7th grade because they were good at math in 6th grade. But it doesn't mean they're still not 7th graders that still have everything you're saying. So I think you're on the right track there because right, they still need all that extra.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So it's how do we fit that in? Like that's right. Yeah.
Because those are the kids that are on the track and you want to keep them on the track.
Yep.
So I think you're onto something there. And then the only other thing I would say there is also when you talk about the higher rated, right, the algebra, right, is for these studies and stuff, you said you have breakdown by class and teacher and stuff. Because I think that'll be interesting to see too, because I think so much of it will come down to, especially math, more almost than anything else. Because math, self-admittedly, right, once your kid hits like algebra, you can't help them as much, right? Like there is much more for our students. The teacher almost matters more than almost anywhere else, like middle school math, right? Like there's the whole transitioning, there's 7th, 8th, right, in, out, on, right? But in that middle, right, so much depends on that middle school math teacher because the parents can't really help as much. There's not just as much just out there online to kind of grasp, which geography thing or this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Math really, if there's not that connection between teacher and student, and it just snowballs. So yeah, I think you're onto something there, and I think it's important to kind of grab those 7th graders early and be like, you're on the right track, but it doesn't mean you're here. You still need to be brought there.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and it's challenging because the 7th grade pre-algebra curriculum is covering the 7th and 8th grade content in 1 year. So you're trying to get all of that, and you have to make some choices along the way. And so we're hoping to use IXL to kind of reinforce all of that material.
I don't mean to cut the conversation, but I just want to make sure you have time to get through the presentation.
Yes. So we'll certainly pull some of the historical data and take a look at that. Good to have. Yeah. All right. I didn't want to wrap up all this academic talk without, I mentioned this with Laurel, I'll just be quick on it, but like that's not everything we do at Henry James. Actually, it's related to the math question. It's like we're doing so much more with our students that when I talk to colleagues in other middle schools, it's getting crowded out by this pressure to improve math scores, this pressure to improve students working with their hands, students working with wood and sewing and having wellness every day and singing. And so like I just don't want that to get lost, that the comprehensive program we have, we're extraordinarily proud of the other stuff we do.
All right, we also give a student survey. There's a lot of information here. Jacqueline's going to go quickly through some of the high points, but really good news in our climate and culture survey last year.
I think we had a lot of overall strengths. Excuse me. But one thing that we wanted to note was that if you include neutral responses, they were well over 90% in all the areas that we highlighted. So that was really great because neutral for middle school kids can mean, it can be negative, it can be positive, but it's not something to ignore. That really our strongly disagree and disagree were very low percentages, which was great. There was really a strength in our overall safety and a culture of belonging, which went up by 7%, and students really felt the school was fun and engaging, calm and welcoming, and there's a lot of opportunities to be involved. We had a lot of surprise positive data on our cell phone policy. So, like Scott said, that was the first year we instituted it, and we were very clear in the expectations of off and away, and it's not on your person, it's in your locker. And we also had very clear guidelines of what happens when your cell phone is found. So I think having everything really articulated for the students made it easy, and there was a lot less arguments between students and teachers too, which created a positive culture. And there was also less lengthy trips to the bathroom or sneaking around or concerns about like what's on Snapchat right now, or I've got to respond to this right now. Kids were present. They were present for learning. They were present at lunch for conversations. They weren't trying to sneak it under the table. So it really changed, I think, the culture and climate of the school for positive. Some concerns and suggestions for kids are typically the same. They, more activities, and we really stress with them that if there's something you want to do, we can start a club. If you can find a teacher to support you, we can do that. There is a big push to have better lunches. Sorry, food services. But, bigger portions too. They're middle school kids, they're growing, and if you see what's on their plate sometimes, like, they'll go back for a second, sometimes a third lunch. They want more breaks in the day, which is tricky because they have 4 minutes of passing, but they always want a little more time for that. And more active classes, but that speaks to some of the work that we're doing on engagement and really getting the kids up and moving throughout the day. I think the response to data will kind of talk about a lot of these things throughout the presentation, but we saw a significant decrease in no one seems to get in trouble. And I think a lot of that has to do with, we clearly outlined those cell phone policy. We clearly outlined a tardy policy, which then this year it was tardy to class. First time's a warning, second time, call home, third time is a lunch detention. It really kept the kids in line, and this year we transferred it to tardy to school and tried to model after the high school's tardy policy, which has made huge differences in the school. And I think when the kids know the expectations, they better align themselves with them. A big piece that we also did was our behavior matrix. So that really defined all the areas of the school and how they align to our ROAR, the tenets of ROAR of respect, responsibility, and integrity. So the kids help define what does it look like for each of those tenets in each area of the school. And this year we had our 8th graders make posters that we now have hanging around the school outlining that. So for faculty and staff, we were over the moon with our results. I mean, they were so high in all areas, and people really feel like they belong in the Henry James staff, that it's a good fit for them. They feel supported, that it's a positive and welcoming environment. And we were excited that behavior was barely mentioned by the staff because in prior years, student behavior was a big issue. So we were excited at the positive changes in that. There weren't as many concerns to highlight, but they really, want us to continue with the policies, like the cell phone policy that we put in place. They would like us to continue to have PD opportunities where they have choice. They appreciate that, targeted to their department, not to have a one-size-fits-all. And certainly AI is something that people want more professional development with. As far as we've talked about the 6-7 transition a lot, we've started to do some work on, I've worked with Betsy on developing a committee so we can look at that transition. Our study skills has also worked on helping the transition from 6 to 7 as well. With the
On the study skills.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I was going to talk about it a little because it gets mentioned throughout here. So,
well, is this being distributed to 6th graders? Like, are they going to get a chance to see this implemented this year?
We have not because it's the first year for us, so we're still figuring out how we're implementing it. So we have not given it to 6th graders yet.
I will tell you that all principals, including the high school principal, have asked for copies. I don't know if they've asked you to autograph them yet, but have
Waiting
asked
for like my moment.
copies so they can share with their teachers and
Yeah.
so we can create this continuation.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if it's worth thinking, is there a downside to just printing up a few more of these and handing them to every sixth grade student to look, and just have some exposure to it?
And we can think about to the end of the year when they visit with us or something like that.
Maybe send like a nice gift when they can visit or something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I think the power on this is that it was really made by Henry James teachers for Henry James students. Like it's very personalized. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good template to lead from the middle on. Like how can a high school take something like this and move it there, and how can elementary principals take it and move it there for sure.
So with our family survey trends, overall safety increased, belonging increased. Overall, for all of the questions that were asked with the family, we saw an average of approximately 12% improvement. We attribute a lot of that to the work that we did with parents over the course of the year. The conferences were huge, bringing parents into the middle school. I think they miss that. They hear so much from their elementary teachers. And you get to middle school and it's very different because there's Power School and you have 8 teachers. And so that personalization is a little bit different. So getting them in the building was really great for us, and we're going to continue to look at that process and refine the parent-teacher conference with them. We did a lot with our parenting series, and then this year teachers have started the parenting series rather than bringing outside resources, so they did development or sessions with parents on Google Classroom and the work that we did with Google Classroom, streamlining it, creating to-do lists for students so that it's easier for them to use. And we also taught the parents about Power School. And I think we had about 40 plus people at our first PTC meeting, which is pretty amazing. So I think all of the attention that we've given to parents and creating that open communication with them has really been great.
And well received.
One is, do you have the numbers of how many people actually, or how many families actually responded?
That's an awesome question
I don't have it
that I
on
don't have my fingertips on, but it's more than 100.
Okay. Great. Okay. And then did all students required or given?
Yes, all
Yeah,
students and all staff too.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just the families that I'd be curious about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably get it on my phone. If you give me 5 minutes, but.
Susan.
All right, so moving into the last part, we've talked about, yes, it's okay.
Under concern suggestions, varied opinions on IXL, can you talk about what some of those varied opinions were for families?
Yeah, so in the open-ended, some teachers were just felt confused or like didn't, are still wondering if this is the right platform, that kind of thing. You would gonna get that in any implementation year of a survey, so their questions were about the 30 minutes and how hard it is to track that, and the students are kind of like phoning it in for the 30 minutes, and that was what those comments were about. So part of that change is we're more focused on skills, so you can monitor if they've done that skill or not.
I think some parents saw it as positive. They were glad to see their kids practicing, but then also it becomes an addition to their regular homework. So there's a time management piece,
Yeah.
like you have a week to complete 30 minutes in math, possibly. English wasn't doing it every single week. 30 minutes in English, you have Duolingo and world language, so it's managing that on top of your regular assignment. So I think that, people are like, what's going on here? All of a sudden we have, a lot more platforms that they're working off of.
Yeah, it's a lot to manage as a parent,
Yeah.
right? To have classroom, have this and have that, for sure.
Do you think
116 families, sorry.
It is more than 100, that's
Well,
true.
more, knew it was more than 100.
16, how many do you have?
We had 640. Last year we had about 650 students.
680, I think, last year.
Oh, so that's not that nice.
Yes.
That's a good sample size.
Yeah.
Of any-
For
any
parents.
survey.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
And then my question was on conferences, do you do 7th and 8th or is it just 7th?
7th and 8th.
We did 7th and 8th, and they met with their connections teacher. So the connections teacher, it was a process with the kids over the course of a few months where the kids gathered some sample information. They filled out some questionnaires about their goals. They set goals at the beginning of the year, so they talked about their progress. They did a little Power School summary. So the connections teacher was really a representative. They didn't get to go and meet with every teacher because we also wanted every teacher engaged in the process, which really, I think, helped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did the question for the families have anything about math, or was IXL primarily math?
This was just open-ended.
Open-ended
There was no
comments.
question about it.
right?
This was really the climate and culture.
And IXL just kind of
Came up.
So I wonder too, though, back to my earlier point, if like IXL is just used as like a math thing, right? Like if parents are at home and have concerns with math, and IXL is the tool to get better at math, is it a math comment?
Could be.
And then also just the open-ended, it's interesting to me a little bit, maybe it's just throwing it out there, not necessarily a question, but I'd like your thought, that families, parents are saying that on behalf of their children, right? That they feel that their children have a better feeling of belonging in the school than the students feel. Like that to me seems odd, right? Like I feel like as parents sometimes you worry a little bit more about your student. Like you feel like, oh, like, you know, how do you think he fits in? I think he's doing all right. I'm not really sure. You're a little more concerned, right?
Yeah.
This is just interesting to me that the parents are like, nah, 70-some%. He's good. He's doing great.
Yeah.
And then he's coming in at like 60, right? Like that to me is just it's
But
an interesting dynamic that parents
I didn't
feel.
read it that way though, Josh. I thought it meant like as a family, like I would have answered that as a family. Do I feel like I'm welcome in the school?
You have to look at the question. I know.
Yeah, is that the question? I thought it was. Is it a because safety's.
Actually, I think the question is my child.
My child is my
I think it's my
child
child.
feels.
There's a saying Delta.
Yeah, I think it's
in
how you-
safety as well. So
Yeah.
your question is the right. There's an interesting disconnect
Right.
Yeah.
going
And I was
on
thinking
there.
that too. Do I feel like I belong to family? But then I switched it because how would I feel safe as a family?
Yeah.
Like, I feel perfectly safe. I'm not there. But
The question is my child.
And I
right.
think
That's what I interpreted it as like.
And I think when it boils down to it, like having a middle schooler at home, it's, you know, how was the fall fest? It was fine.
Right.
You know? And then like we're out there watching them, like having the time
Look,
of their
they're having a
lives.
great time.
Even
And
more
that's how they
reason-
answer these. Like
Right. Even
But you
right.
think then the parent numbers would be lower.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They would come in and say,
yeah.
I don't know, everything seems to be
Middle school.
Everything's fine.
It's so hard
School.
to,
Yeah.
middle schoolers are just
Yeah.
Right.
Critical.
So I think seeing that does to me, because I saw the sixes, it seems a little, I think if families are feeling though, to your point, that the kids are coming home, they're feeling good, right?
Yeah.
It just may be the difference between an adult answering a question
It's a perspective.
than a middle school kid.
Yeah. And like I said, if we add those neutral on, which a lot
Yeah,
of
the
people feel
neutral on, you're in
about
the
everything.
90s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Can you talk about the implementation of the new challenging behaviors plan? What is that plan? Talk about that.
Sure, you know, fortunately, we haven't had to fill the form out yet. We've been having a really, really good start to the school year.
Yeah.
But really, this is when you have a really significant issue, whether it's physical, bullying, just like dangerous issue.
Needing to empty a room.
For some reason, then there's a new process that we would fill out. It's good because it documents, you know, what we've done. It guides us through the path of what to do, and I think it's good for accountability. So, like I said, fortunately, like we've unheard of. We're off, like at Henry James. I was going to conclude with that. What a good start we're on. We're going to fill one out tomorrow, probably.
I'm not going to.
But the kids have been doing a magnificent job this year.
It's
really
the climate has been amazing. And last year we had some big behaviors, and so it's been great. And we've been working on a lot of restorative practice and pairing discipline with education too. So which has been, I think, really helpful.
Yeah, good question. Okay, I know time is going late, so I'll go somewhat quickly through this. Just goal setting. We were excited to be able to take the new Board of Ed goals and start with those at Henry James to establish our goals. So then we boil that down in context of vision to the graduate. I make with my leadership team kind of our priorities. So like these are our priorities for the year. You've already heard about all of them, so I don't need to read them through you. I mean, this is the work that it's all grounded in the data that we saw. You can certainly take a look at it another time, but these are the things that we're working on as a school this year. When we break them down into the goal areas, like I said, we've talked about most of this, but I'll just a couple highlights. You know, curriculum is a big goal of ours right now. Sue and her team have gotten a new platform for us to put our curriculum in, and really looking at priority standards for each subject area is an emphasis this year. So that's kind of a big push. I already talked about Excel. We talked about math. Talked about collaboration across the grades on math and literacy skills. I didn't mention the math. I know we're interested in math, but one of the parts of the math test is this performance task that the students have to do. They get 90 minutes to do one problem. And it's like a graph and a bunch of questions they have to write. And if you're watching a kid take this, some kids just look at that and go, shut the Chromebook. It's too much. So social studies has taken on the task of doing some of their lessons that have to do with economics and having students practice those kinds of tasks. So socials is going to be doing some of that this year as well, which is great to cross-discipline math into some of the other subjects. I think it's exciting. So I forgot to mention that. And you already talked a lot about the study skills handbook.
We're just super excited. So it went out to students a couple weeks ago. So our committee's actually meeting to say, okay, what kind of lessons can we do throughout the year so it doesn't get lost? I mean, it'll get lost in their backpack. They only got paper copies. We didn't get them the really nice ones yet. But, how can we continue it throughout the year for both students and parents? We're hoping to present it at one of the PTC meetings too.
One thing, I think social studies taking out some of the math is awesome. Like that's just, you were saying about each class is only so many minutes in math.
Yes, so we've got to bleed it into other areas.
Very smart and kudos to you for getting creative there. That would be something that I'm
Tech
sure
Ed too.
Yeah, Tech Ed takes
doing a bunch of
that's
stuff.
awesome.
Yeah.
Logistically, it would probably be a nightmare, but it would be one thing that as time goes on, if what's being done with math still needs work. I know you can't make math longer, it's not everyone's in class at the same time.
Yeah.
But a consideration for is, do we get to a point where if math's really, everything else is doing great, right? Do we need it, like, you get like a 6th math class each week? Is there something there where it's like something, because I think what you're doing here is a way to weave in additional math, which I think is very smart, but I do think there's something to that. So kudos to you for coming. That's creative, and I think it's really good.
Josh, one last comment that I want to remind the board, and we're actually going to get an updated curriculum committee, that Betsy Gonzalez and Pat Long, as the HJ department supervisor, are working together to do a full 6-8 curriculum review in math. Awesome. And to say, what are we really doing? What standards are we addressing? What are we not? What does our data tell us? So that is evolving this year. We'll be giving updates as that comes to fruition.
Appreciate it.
Just to kind of couch some of the things you've been talking about, I think there's just been a real focus and commitment to reestablishing an instructional culture at the middle school, right? Like, so focused on positive climate, engagement of kids, but now an opportunity to really kind of clarify some expectations, use department supervisors in a different way, and really kind of think culturally about the level of instruction. It's kind of exciting. I mean, it's a continuum, right? Yeah. Certainly, but
yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm just gonna echo what Josh said, but I love weaving math into other disciplines because, like, I mean, right? I've got 2 kids. How many times have I heard, "Boy, I don't want to take another math class"? And my point is always, you're never getting away from it. Whatever you go into, math is going to be a part of it. So I love that you're teaching them that very basic idea. So.
Just had a quick question on the high school. How many, on average, how many minutes does a student have in math during the week?
Oh, you're really testing me now with the block, which
It's 60 minutes.
It's 53-minute classes, and you have 3 or 4 a week depending on the week. So like I have math period 8. So this week on the first day of the rotation is a D day, so I have math. So I'll have math 4 rounds out of the 5 days, and then next week it's different and I'll end up having it 3 or something like that.
The reason why I'm asking is that, Scott knew I was gonna ask. What was that smile? It's just, would we get more time if we change the schedule at Henry James to match the high school?
let me do a comparison of instructional minutes, elementary, middle, and high school, and then I can share that.
I'd just be curious just if the schedule that we changed that was.
That's good information.
No.
I don't think it would.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd say average like 3.5 hours probably. Because it's 3 hours some weeks, 4 hours other weeks.
I have no idea. I'm just curious.
Thank you. Don't show any doubt.
Doing the math.
Very well done.
Making us proud.
Very well done.
Alright,
I mean, we've already highlighted
We've
most
highlighted
everything
all
on
the
this. I
stuff,
think the only thing that we just wanted to talk about was that little block there, and I think you have that in your folders. Yeah, it was really great, because we were dealing with some issues, and we had students fill out a survey about the 3 things, like write 3 words that you don't joke about. And then once we compiled all that, we Scott did a great job making the word cloud. And the bigger the word is, the more often it was represented, or the larger the word was. So it was great, and we have in Connections, they go over that, and then all the kids sign it as a contract, hang it in the room. When we have students who pick on somebody for one of those reasons, we've created reflection questions tied to it. So if they're in a detention or something like that, they have to select some words, talk about why we don't joke about it, and what are your next steps. Sometimes we've had
color in the word that
Yeah.
they were doing.
Yeah. And depending on what it was, we've had different people come in and speak with them. If it's health related, we've had the nurse. Deacon Art has worked with students. We've, so trying to pair that education piece with what they're doing. So that has been really great, and we're about to re-sign the contract this year.
All right. Under Premier Workforce, we talked about most of this. I think I just highlight one of the things in teacher evaluation we do that's different at Henry James is teachers set Aurora goal, which is like, what's one thing you do outside of your classroom to contribute to our community. And so everyone decides like something. It might be student council, but it also might be, just mentoring another teacher or something like that. It could be a large or small goal, but they all sign a goal.
What do you see there, Scott? Like any kind of common themes you see there? I'd be curious, like how teachers view their role in the community.
All kinds of stuff. Like
we did an interesting exercise the other day, because we always go, nobody will volunteer for anything, and then we took the phone list.
Like, oh my God, everyone's doing.
Everyone was doing something. We couldn't find somebody that wasn't involved, whether it was running a club, whether it was you have the people who always chaperone the music events. You have people who are on various committees. It was actually really an awesome exercise.
Like, I'm going to bring cookies and walk them around on Fridays to spread cheer.
Yeah.
Like so, all kinds of different stuff they do, which is great. Very middle school. So the other stuff is really like our focus on PLCs. Matt kind of talked about that. This instructional culture piece, new teacher evaluation. That's all about our workforce and making sure we retain and keep our teachers challenged, right? Strategic investments. You'll see this in my budget of working our Title I study skills teacher into the regular operating budget, so we're not reliant on federal funds for that person, especially today. And then our structured study hall teacher, someone we're looking at to do some more study skills work and help support our initiative there. We have 6 new hires. They're doing great, but we'll focus on onboarding and throughout the year. And then continuing with stuff like the flagpole. I was going to put a picture of our boys' bathroom, but then I thought better of it.
I was going to say, the bathroom was amazing.
But that was good too. So last piece, Jen clicked it already. I wanted last year I showed you our new HJNN club, and it was kind of like a rough cut. So I wanted to just show you like a little glimpse of the HJNN. They're on like their 8th episode. We won't watch the whole thing because I know time is of the essence, but I can just show you just their start, like their lead in.
Hello, I'm Zoe Ryan. I'm Olivia Keller. This is HJNN. First up, we have some of the 7th graders sharing about their experiences at Winding Trails. Hi, I'm Serena. Recently, the 7th graders took a field trip to Winding Trails. I'm going to interview a few of them and find out what their favorite part was and what they learned from this experience. Hi, my name is Violet, and my favorite part of Winding Trails was the tire site. The tire site is a group effort where you have to swing from one swing to another with your group. Sounds fun. Next up is at Winding Trails, I enjoyed the rope swing the best. The rope swing included lots of peer motivation, and I learned that communication is key, especially in team building activities. Thanks, Violet. Now let's go over to Tejas.
My favorite part of Winding Trails was the sound sports activity because we had to stay together and turn each other and.
She's right. Communication is important. Last up, we have Taylor.
The thing I enjoyed most at Winding Trails was at the end where our connections had to make the longest line of everything involved. From this activity, I learned that teamwork is really important.
Thank you for your experiences. I hope you had fun. So now we will have a recap of the book sale that took place in Simsbury.
The Simsbury Public Library Book Sale was held at the Simsbury High School on October 4th and October 5th. It is put on by the Friends of the Simsbury Public Library. All of the books were sorted by genre. There is even a section for large print. You can see that the sale takes up both gyms at the high school. There are usually many books geared towards middle schoolers and high schoolers. The best part is that books are only a few dollars. There is a whole section of puzzles and games. They are sorted by age levels. Mrs. Callahan bought more games and puzzles that can be used in makerspace. Please donate. Please drop off all your books, puzzles, games, DVDs, and CDs all year long.
So you can see they're getting out and about now. There's a spot in there of them at the talent show where Jacqueline and I performed, and they're on scene and stuff like that. So the skills they're learning it's really great. It's really great to see what they're doing. So it's a ton of fun. This is their third episode of the year so far. So every couple weeks they're putting together.
In class, so we usually do it during connections, or our fifth period's a little bit longer because of lunches, so that's an extra 10 minutes for announcements.
So it's
also cool. I was reminded that the Kathleen McGowan teacher grants helped to support some mics, some new equipment, and things to kind of level up some of what they were doing at HGN. So that was a cool connection.
Is it an after school club?
Yes. Yeah, no, it's great. It's
they're
growing.
They're all over the school, and she's made press passes.
They have press passes, cameras, and all this stuff. So it's really cool. It's good. It's good. Yeah.
Winding Trails, we didn't talk about that earlier, but it was a great trip.
Oh, yeah.
Chaperoned it, and the kids had so much fun. Watching them work together was fascinating.
It is.
And seeing who steps forward to lead and who learns how to follow, it was great. So
it was awesome.
Good trip.
Great.
I do have one last question.
Yes.
You're on the if it's a long answer, you don't have to answer. The connections. I am curious, how do connections work at Henry James now?
So we're built right now. There's about 12 to 13 kids in a connections. Every teacher has one in the building. The kids are organized by team. But what we started was a year ago.
This is new. You wouldn't have experienced
a year or 2 years ago. Every child in that teacher's connections class is a student that they have, because before it was alphabetical. The first 5 go here, and then the next whatever. And so that has made a huge difference, that it's someone that you have throughout the year, and they can build that connection with them. So we're really strategic. It's a very arduous process in the summer to make sure it all works, especially for the teachers who teach smaller groups. But it's a great, and they do team activities through connections, team building, assemblies, all the goal setting, the conferences stuff is through connections. So it's been, and that was part of the reason why we made sure it's a teacher that they have, so that when the conferences came, they could talk to that kid. They
parents
at
are
least
meeting with the teacher that they have.
Yeah.
Great job. The study skills is huge. And appreciate. I know when you're trying to change, like Matt was saying, the culture of all of it, and you're doing it with a neutral kind of group, right? I know it's hard to move that shift, but kudos to you for doing the score showing it, right? Obviously, we talked about the math, but everything else is just, it looks great. And appreciate you, the study skills, the way you're weaving things in. I appreciate the creativity and the way you guys are attacking that strategically. So thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Great.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Yep.
Thanks.
Capital.
Yes.
All right.
We are gonna kind of kick off the capital conversation for the year with a review of year one projects. We have a couple pretty large scale priorities to talk through, a few visuals that I think will help, because one of the projects, which is turf replacement and track replacement, always gets quite a bit of interest and dialogue to go with it. So I'm gonna kick this to Jason, and he's gonna kind of go through year one. Thanks,
All right.
Thanks, guys.
So when we looked at our 6-year capital plan, one of the items on it, one of the larger items on it, was a partial roof replacement at Henry James. The roof is in decent enough condition, and the other roofs are fairly new at this point. So our roof fund is is okay to take this on for another year, we felt. So we're gonna push that phase out. That leaves the turf and track resurfacing. We'll just take a look at some of the conditions here. Looks pretty good from afar. This is from the security camera way up on the pole, but when you start to zoom in and look at the track conditions, we're looking at a variety of patches in different locations. Another patch here. Also tears in the track. The projector doesn't really show it too much, but it's sort of a striped color where the center line is lighter than the edges, just being worn out. There's also a separation between the turf and the track, and this is somewhat of a concern. A rolling ankle could happen here certainly, and that goes for quite a distance as it's separated.
That's been an ongoing issue. I mean, we were involved with that a few years ago. You can see the color differential of the turf right up against the track. The way the turf was installed, Jason will probably get into it later, with whatever happened with the drainage, it pulled towards the center and away from the track to the point before we laid a little bit of the new turf down, because we did a repair several years ago, the contractor filled it in with stones. And we had a real issue there for a bit of the stones getting on the track, so we were able to get a repair.
Right.
But it's really pulling significantly again. And I know you'll get into this, Jason, but both these large-scale items, I mean, they have a shelf life, right? And we know that when we go in and there's a cycle, the track is well beyond its recommended cycle. We did a painting and a resurfacing of that years ago. There's not really anything else you can do to it now. And the turf is right on the limit of where it's supposed to be. I don't want to take all your thunder here, but one of the challenges with our turf, you talk to our coaches in town, that field is utilized so heavily by the entire community. So it's not just high school sports rotating on there. It is all weekends. It is youth teams. It is adults. It is a constant beating in maintenance in terms of just the life of that. So,
right. Sure. As we discussed, the turf itself, you can see this rippling effect as it's loosening up on the ground. Those bands rippling through the turf. And then in places we have seam separations. The use of this, the varsity sports practice 6 times a week, all of the varsity sports. And then in the fall, there's more than a dozen teams from soccer, field hockey, football, lacrosse, cheerleading, and then in the spring also rugby, track and field, Special Olympics teams, park and rec clinics. Even in the winter, we have the indoor track going out on the outdoor if weather permits, along with community member activities, just people showing up and using this on top of it. And then in the summer, we see our heaviest use with 16 different activities from, again, soccer, lacrosse, strength conditioning, rugby, track and field, the DCE camp, park and recs camp, youth football. It's an extreme use. And
Jason, quick question. All of the non-school use, there's a fee that they pay, right?
I believe it depends on the activity.
If it's a Simsbury youth football or we don't charge the fee.
Right.
If we're an independent organization coming in from the outside,
but yeah, the complex was put in 2005. It was the track itself was resurfaced in 2014, and the turf was done in 16. The major resurfacing with an 8-year warranty. So at this point, it's beyond its warranty period, and that's under normal use conditions. And I'd say we are in the heavy use range.
just so my terminology correct, so with a turf resurfacing, you're talking about putting essentially a new turf, right?
Right.
With a track, are you digging it up?
Yeah, the actual track replacement is more than the
Yeah,
turf
so you're just not
replacement.
farming it.
No.
But we looked at several options,
Right.
tried to exhaust different things.
Yeah.
With the life of it and what we've done
Yeah,
already.
just wanted to make sure.
I assume there's efficiency or synergy doing them at the same time.
Yeah, there's a few reasons as to why you would want to do that. Not the least of which is that the turf and track are integrated. So if you were to go back and do it later, you'd be taking the turf off of. And certainly just these things go up year over year, so you're going to spend more in the later years.
When would you be doing this between your season?
It would be through a summer project.
So that would take offline any of the 16 activities that would use it.
Correct.
So the resurfacing of both that you have on this next slide, sorry, to have, that's replacement of the turf and the track.
Correct.
Okay.
So what do the 16 activities do in the summer? Where do they go?
We'll work with the athletics department to manage where either in town or in building or the other fields at the school we can move them to.
Gonna have to use the good old fashioned grass.
Yeah.
Shut.
Terrible.
I mean, if you were to, again, like, I think Jason made a great point, right, numbers just keep going up, right? If you got a thing that's any kind of a safety hazard, like, if you were to pick any square footage area in this town that gets used by as many families as that square footage.
There's so much dialogue, as you know, being around youth sports about field access and desire for more fields and quality fields.
Yeah. And I think
Keep up your main one,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And I think looking at it, right below there's clearly a thing here, right? Like the Henry James roof has come up, Jason's taking a look, we can make it another year, right? So if it's on the list and it's on the strength field, it don't mean it's needed, right? So I mean, that's just something.
My piece on that, I don't wanna, depending on what the town has as priorities too, and if there's an opportunity to pull that back up, but I mean, we're always, of the mindset to provide priorities, which is what people want, so that's kind of what we're doing here, but you don't wanna get in a situation, and I agree with the recommendation, but if there is extra capacity based on what the town needs and we have a chance to move that back up, I would wanna be able to at least have that conversation too, but what is it overall? It's like the way we look at approvals and debt service right now, it's about like $5 million a year.
Yeah, it's a $5 million a year or
So-
$10 million every 2 years. So you could do 7 and 3, or you could do 5 and 5.
So it's tight,
And we have other things going on. Flooring is always on the top of the principal lists in all the buildings, and I've been meeting with Kyle and he's gone out. He has I think at this point all but one of the school principal meetings done, so we've got a pretty good sense of what the asks are gonna be, and we're certainly gonna use that every other year flooring amount, which is on this list as well. And then the last piece is network improvements. This is also biennial, so every other year. And it's a $350,000 amount, and this year we're replacing network servers from around 2011, 2012, so they're certainly
So everything we're looking to replace really has gone beyond its expected lifespan.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, from a priority standpoint, we're pushing out as much as we can push out, but there are some things that really just need to be taken care of.
Makes sense.
It's a lead list as we had in the last few years, so that'll go over well with our Board of Finance friends, but
And as we get into the budget process and we get into the workshop, we'll share the balance of the 6-year. We've had the conversation about Tecton coming out and doing some work with us this year. We have a finance committee meeting coming up. He's gonna present several different kind of scenarios to us, and we plan to have a board presentation. This is the 11th, I think the 11th of November. And I shared that information the other day with the Board of Finance to keep them in the loop as to.
Are you gonna talk any more about that solar thing, or can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
The Latimer and SHS you're gonna send out for bid, but Are those because those are the newest?
Yeah, the big factor in adding solar is the age of the roof because the panels have roughly a 20-year lifespan. So you kind of want to marry that up. So after you've put a roof on, you don't want to do it immediately because you want to make sure you've seen a year with the roof to make sure there's no manufacturing issues with how that was implemented. But then after that year of burn-in for the roof, the panels go on, and then when they're about to be replaced, the roof is also about to be replaced. So it gets into a cycle. And the high school is right in that zone. Latimer is certainly right in that zone as well.
Yay! So the first quarterly, the report of the year, there's really not a ton to report. The majority of our expenditures typically take place during the school year when school's in session. But there are a couple highlights I just wanted to point out on the report. The first one being on that first page, your open choice, attendance, and early learning grant. You'll see that we're anticipated to receive $1.9 million this year. There was an increase of about 89,000, and this is due to the increase of our open choice students. We were able to add about 8 additional students from last year at around 10,000 a student, and therefore we bumped it up to about $100,000 given the 10,000 per student, and then they had a little bonus bucket of money, if you will, at the state that's divided amongst qualifying schools. The other special ed, the excess cost grant, which we typically talk about, our 10-1 filing is due December 1st, so we'll only have estimated grant reimbursement numbers provided for the January timeframe. So keeping a close eye on that one as we start preparing those reports. Those are the two main highlights I had on the grants. And then on the expenditures, you can see under the table that's provided there that the majority of changes in spending are typically just related to the timing of vendor payments. There wasn't anything that I could see that was grossly out of whack, if you will. The only thing I wanted to highlight, because there's a huge, there's a large discrepancy in the percent spent, is the insurance and pension line item. So last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's the 7th line down. And you can see the fiscal year 24-25% spent was only at 12%, and fiscal year 26 we're already at 25% spent. And this is due to a timing and vendor payment, but it's related to our annually required contribution for our pension. So last year that payment was made in the second quarter, whereas this year it was made in the first quarter. And since that payment is well over $1 million, it's just driving up that percentage.
So that should just even out.
Yeah, so in the second quarter it'll even out. It just looks weird because we did it so early in the year this year. And that's all I had for highlights, unless anybody else had any other specific questions.
Just a quick question, obviously, it's always a big topic, just how the state, or how district tuitions, how are we feeling about those? Obviously the percentage is a little, whatever, a tick higher than it was last year, but.
Yeah, so that's related to the timing of the vendor payments, but Melissa Appleby, our budget guru, keeps a close eye on that, and so she meets weekly with Katie Crisilla, the Special Services Director, and then monthly, I believe, with Matthew. But she keeps tabs on it, and right now we're within budget. We're good as far as tuitions, we're good as far as transportation, so
awesome.
Fingers crossed it stays that way.
We hope that holds, right?
Absolutely.
We made some real investments there in that state.
Absolutely. All right, that comes to our second public audience. Seeing this everybody here. Our next meeting will be the 11th, 2 weeks from time.
Just to note, that is Veterans Day. Town Hall is closed, but obviously us and the schools are open.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
For over 40 years, SCM has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education, and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community, ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings, and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions, and it's no secret people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
We need your support.
We need your support. We need your support.
We need your support.
Your donation can make a difference. It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth, and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government come together.